I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you to TUG Group. Thank you for hosting us today, and thanks to Jeff for joining me from Acumen Group. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to this group about ShipStation and what our application could potentially do for you from an efficiency standpoint when doing your fulfillment. So first and foremost, I like to start on this slide. We're a very mission-driven company at ShipStation. And these are some words that we live by at our organization. I think really crystallizes what we're trying to do. So when I'm at a trade show or when Jeff and I were first discussing working together, I always recite these words: wherever you sell, however you ship, exceptionally efficient. At a high level, just to explain as to what ShipStation is a web-based, SaaS-based fulfillment application, fulfillment and order management application. So when we say wherever you sell, what ShipStation really is talking about is integrations. At its core, ShipStation is a heart of integrations that integrates with places where orders might be generated or live, such as a marketplace, a shopping cart, an ERP, a CRM, an OMS, all many number of acronyms, right? But the idea is that to have those orders, wherever they're generated, wherever they're living, come into a centralized dashboard, a centralized web-based dashboard, where then someone can do the however you ship component, right? ShipStation integrates with the likes of UPS, USPS, Fedex, 30 plus international carriers. We're in 4 countries. We're in the US, Canada, Australia, and the UK. And the idea is you can bring those orders into the dashboard, see them all in real time, animate them, shop rates, and then generate postage for those particular orders. You've got orders that need to be fulfilled, need to be shipped out. ShipStation is there to facilitate that. So however you ship, right? In addition to that core functionality, bringing in orders from various locations, and then aggregating them, being able to do rate shopping, being able to generate postage and manifest postage in the app, ShipStation also has a myriad of dispatch logic, or what we'd call automation rules. And that's what our exceptionally efficient component refers to in our mission statement. The idea is that when those orders import, business processes can take place. Certain carriers can automatically be pre-selected. The cheapest rate can be pre-selected to be able to print those orders at scale. And I'll show that in the demo as well. But just very high level, that's the definition, or how I envision ShipStation. So ShipStation, what is it? ShipStation and ERP. As I mentioned, it's a very powerful e-commerce and ERP fulfillment tool. We got our start in commerce. So when you look at integrations of ShipStation, you'll see that we do talk a lot about e-commerce integrations like Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Marketplace. But over time, what we realized is that the same functionality, a lot of the same things that people found a lot of value in, the ability to rate shop, the ability to produce orders and tracking and have all those integrations and have all that information seamlessly flow back, was just as applicable in the ERP world, and now even the CRM world with Salesforce, listing management tools like Channel Advisor. The same principles apply. I mean, basically what people want to be able to do is manage the shopping and rate shopping and the ability of manifesting postage in an efficient way, and regardless of where that order might be coming from. So what we like to describe ourselves as, we're very efficient and affordable online order management tool. As I mentioned, that exceptionally efficient component of our mission statement really rings true when you do have different processes for different SKUs. For example, maybe you have multiple warehouses and you need to be able to automatically route orders to specific places, or even you have specific stations, for lack of a better word, in your warehouse, and you need to be able to route orders to those specific stations for regulated products. The point is that ShipStation gives our customers and potential customers the ability to do this. We really serve a variety of different customers. These could be customers who are just doing purely e-commerce. Maybe they just had a single shopping cart. Maybe they were just on like a Shopify or a Magento, all the way up to B2B customers who are doing manufacturing, at retailers, logistic providers, 3PL providers, anyone who really needs the ability to shop rates, to be able to ship and create postage at scale. ShipStation's a really, really good fit for. Our big value prop is that we're all about helping customers grow their business, whether or not they're doing B2C, direct to consumer, or B2B business. What we've seen in the B2B world, and that's sort of my background, is more of a B2B model, is that these B2B clients are still doing business online. And I think the expectations have gone considerably up, regardless of whether they're buying something from maybe a marketplace or they're buying something from their manufacturer. They still expect things to be on time. They still expect transparency, and they expect to be able to get those products from the selling channels that they're comfortable selling on. So ShipStation does offer a lot of different selling channels, lots of different places and integrations so that people can scale their business, so people can put those products where their customers are, and we think that's extremely valuable. We also partner with the top carriers. So they're basically 90% of the market is going to be UPS, USPS, FedEx, and DHL. And we also support regional carriers, but we also understand that people have carriers that they prefer doing business with and they have relationships with, and we support those carriers. We also give the ability to give discounted rates to those carriers, because we know that if you want to explore doing business with one of the other carriers and you can't, you don't necessarily have a relationship to negotiate rates. We want to be able to offer up discounted rates to our customers. Quicker order management. We think this is a very important part in any business, right? I mean, I think any customer that comes in and orders something from be it a B2B or a B2C customer or a manufacturer, they expect that order to be dispatched same day. They expect that order to be to be noted in their email so they can see that tracking information. We think that that's valuable regardless of what your business model is. And then brand awareness. So branding, obviously a huge component in the overall D2C relationship. Just things like branded emails, branded tracking, and I'll show you some of this when I go over the demo, we think is extremely important. And that rings true regardless of whether or not you're doing B2B or B2C commerce or standard manufacturing and distribution. So our big value prop, I'll tell anyone this, it really boils down to time and money. We can reduce order processing time by 50%. I've actually personally seen situations where folks will be logging into different carrier sites, shopping rates per order. That can be really, really time consuming, and especially if you're doing kind of uploads, CSV uploads, or anything in spreadsheets, that's very time consuming, and it's obviously something that an employee could be doing that could be better served doing something else that's more efficient and more impactful for the business. So I always tell people we're big value prop, time and money, efficiency, and order processing. But also reducing error as well. So through the automation rules, which I'll show you in the demo here in a second, it really allows you to automate all those processes that you're trying to account for. Maybe you have fragile goods, maybe you have goods that need to be, or perishable, for example, need to be next day. And you don't have to necessarily rely on someone in the warehouse remembering that this SKU needs to be next day or this SKU needs to be in this particular specific use case. You can automate that through our app. So I think that's very, very huge for reducing errors. We also have some functionality in the app that allows for scanning, so people can scan orders, make sure things are right in the right box, and just reducing sort of costly customer service engagements as they pop up. But another big aspect, I mentioned this kind of in the last slide, we do provide deeply discounted rates for USPS, UPS, and FedEx. Because we have a relationship with those companies and we do a lot of business with them through our customer base, we're able to negotiate those rates and then pass them along regardless of what plan you might have with UPS or FedEx or USPS. So the minute you log into our app, we're able to actually give deeply discounted rates on priority through USPS, as well as up to 65% on UPS. So significant savings right off the bat. And a lot of people do come to our app looking for opportunities to save money on postage. It's usually a very, very high line item on most people's P&L. But then if you do have your own negotiated rates and you do have rates with carriers, you're able to use our rate calculator function that allows you to compare and contrast. Not only against the negotiated rates you may have with one of the other carriers, but then also against our discounted rates, just to make sure that you are getting the absolute best possible rate for getting that package from point A to point B. We do have more seller and carrier integrations than any other app. We really do strive, and our strong suit is international. So if you, for example, want to move into international, but the whole concept of customs forms and the aspect of having to manage sort of that process is a little intimidating, we solve for that very well, right? We can do electronic customs forms. We also allow the product of having that harmonization code put right on the customs doc. So there's some great opportunities there to scale internationally if you haven't done so, and then just easily to scale, right? I think a lot of people think about, wow, ShipStation does all these great things, but how hard is it to set up? How hard is it to scale? You know, it's great for this size merchant, but is it going to be great for me in 5, 10 years? It really is an infinitely scalable app, and we have some customers on our platform that are doing millions of shipments a month with us, no problem. Obviously, they're using a lot of automation, so that really, really helps. So just give a brief sort of diagram of what this looks like from a I know it's in the abstract, and you'll get clear when I do the demo on what this looks like. But ShipStation, just a quick overview. The idea is that you receive orders, right? So you set up those integrations with all those selling channels, right? The wherever you sell component. You receive those orders. They come into a centralized dashboard. You manage them. You're able to do rate shopping. You're able to do international harmonization codes, all that stuff. You print those labels and have all of that information, the tracking information, the cost you paid, all that stuff, seamlessly flow back to wherever the corresponding selling channel was. So it really is, I kind of think about it as closing the loop on the process of getting an order, be it from someone on the phone or an e-commerce site or someone, someone calling in. Having all that stuff aggregate in one place, something that the warehouse can intuitively use, printing those labels and having all that information seamlessly flow back, and then keeping the customer, the end user, up to date through the whole process, right? Where is my order? Where's my tracking? What's my tracking number? Getting an email, and then having that experience really pop. If you're doing D2C, branding is super important. So having a branded packing slip, or if you're doing blind drop shipping, for example, through a drop ship like a HomeDepot.com or Kohl's.com or an EDI provider or something, and you're doing blind drop shipping, having that branding match is really, really important. So you're able to manage that in ShipStation seamlessly without having to think about, oh, this box is a Kohl's box, it's got to have that logo on it or whatnot. And just real quick, I'm going to hand this off to Jeff to just explain how this specifically works with CloudSuite Distribution. Jeff?
Yep. Hey, thanks, Kevin. So for many of you guys that may not know who Acumen Group is, but we're a channel and alliance partner. We've been working with SX.enterprise and now CSD since 1998. Our goal here was to work with ShipStation and make a stupidly simple integration with a shipping solution. And I think that's what we've done here. So we're offering this as a fixed and affordable monthly subscription. It's highly available and reliable based on Amazon Web Services and hosted in the same farm that CSD is hosted in. And the base features that are included in the initial integration are orders loaded from CSD to ShipStation, which Kevin will show a little bit about how that store works. So sales orders come in, also multi-warehouse support, as well as shipments coming back and updating CSD, updating orders to ship status, also populating the packages and tracking information back into CSD so they show up on that packages tab in OEIO. We also support voiding shipments. So I'll send it back to Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so I think with that, I think it's probably a good opportunity. I realize sort of talking about that in the abstract is one thing, but seeing is believing. So I'm going to jump into my my demo account here, make sure I'm still logged in. So just flip this up here. Great. So a great place to start, and I'll just keep this very, very high level. And please, if you have questions, I'm going to leave time for questions at the end. So if you have any questions or you want to dig into a specific feature, just please throw those in the chat, and then I'll happy to answer those at the end of the presentation. So a great place to start, the way I always like to think about ShipStation is what are the sort of 4 things? I think a lot of questions I get is, well, how hard is it to stand up an environment of ShipStation? Is it something that I have to, pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to do, or is it something I can do ourselves? So we've tried to make this platform something that is very, very user-friendly from an administrative standpoint and from a use standpoint. And there are really 4 things you have to do inside ShipStation in order to sort of to use its basic functionality. And I'll get into deeper level functionality as well. The first of those is establishing a selling channel. So selling channels, as I mentioned at the top of the presentation, can be anything from e-commerce shopping carts all the way to order management systems, ERPs as well. Connecting these is fairly simple, and obviously if you want to get the integration with the CSD, you just talk to Acumen Group. They'll be able to help you support that as well. We do not limit the amount of selling channels you can add in an app. In fact, most people add about 4 or 5 of them. And you can start coming in and setting up branding for each one individually. So I'll just give an example here. So just a Magento store e-commerce platform. You can come in and add unique branding, colors, top social navigation. You can really manage those selling channels independently within the application. Really, really helpful. You can set up notification preferences. How do you want the end user to be notified? And this can be set up for CSD as well. The second thing, this, if you think about it in terms of our mission statement, the wherever you sell, you got to set the selling channels. The second thing is really setting up shipping carriers. And that is fairly easy as well. So we, right off the bat, will give customers a free USPS postage account that they're able to use right off the bat. As well as if they'd like, they can set up a UPS account direct in our app as well. And that gives you access to those discounted rates that I was talking about earlier in the presentation. But you're more than welcome to add additional users as well, and we tile them the same way, so people are able to come in. Let's say FedEx, for example, you want to use FedEx, it's supported. You're able to come in, simply click on the tile, click connect, accept some terms, and then plug in the corresponding account information. Now, what's really neat about this is that we're not using tabled rates within ShipStation. We're using a genuine API integration with FedEx. So when you enter a unique FedEx account number through this integration, this modal here, anytime we call out to generate postage from FedEx, it's going to correspond directly back with the account that's attached to the ShipStation account. So a lot of people will ask me, well, I already have a relationship with FedEx. If I go with ShipStation, am I going to lose my information, or am I going to lose my rates with FedEx? The answer is no. Not only do you not lose them, you're able to actually shop those rates in real time and see your rates. Because when we make that call, that API call, we're going to actually pass across that account number to not only generate postage, but also generate rates. So connecting carriers couldn't be easier. The third thing is setting up document options. Common question I get, what kind of labels does ShipStation support? The most common label we see is 4x6, but we also support 8.5 by 11. You can do 2 pages, or you can do 8.5 by 11 with the packing slip. You can also add some unique things to the label itself. You can actually come in and add messages to labels. You can order how those labels come out of the printer in what's called a batch print. So very, very helpful in being able to not only configure the document, what kind of label comes out of the printer, you can even put your logo on the label itself, so if the carrier supports it. So a lot of folks will want maybe they want a PO number or just a thank you or anything, right, really on the actual label itself. So they can avoid having to put maybe a packing slip if they don't want to do that. So a lot of flexibility there as well. And then finally, the fourth thing, setting up ship from locations. So because we're a SaaS-based, web-based solution, setting up ship from locations very, very, very easy, and you can add as many as you want. One of the benefits of ShipStation is if you do have multiple warehouses, it's very easy to deploy this sort of enterprise-wide. We had a customer the other day that ended up using us in, I think it was something like 40 of their warehouses, and they just set them up all within ShipStation. Adding them is really simple. You can come in and set up, an individual ship from address. Then you can also configure the return from address, which is really, really helpful if you have a central point of returns, especially if you're working dropship. I know this is pretty big in dropship. You might have an agreement with one of your drop shippers that they take all of damaged returns. You want to be able to have the correct return address on the label so that people can do that accordingly. So once those 4 things, I know that's hard to believe, only 4 things you have to do to really start using ShipStation, but once you've got those 4 things established, where you're pulling orders, the carriers you're going to use, you've got the ship from locations and origin point, and then document options. Most of our customers end up living in this screen, which is the order screen that shows what a typical ShipStation order is going to look like. So the great thing, and I think a lot of the reason people really like using our application, is because the crossover across integrations, the workflow is the same. That's sort of the beauty of fulfillment, is that there are basic things that you need in order to fulfill a product, right? You're going to need to know what was the order date, obviously the address, you can fulfill it, the SKU, what's going to go in the box. But one of the neat things I like about this is I don't know if you notice this little green here where we talk about address validation. ShipStation has an address validation engine within it that can call out and validate any given address. And some people might go, well, why is that important? It's very important, not only from a customer experience, because you don't want to send it to the wrong address, but if UPS or FedEx or any one of the carriers has to adjust the address on a label, they actually charge for that. So it's a great way for that. They actually monetize it. But it's nice to know that when you're printing a label, you know that the address has been validated, and you're not going to have the carrier charge you to correct it. We can auto do it automatically. You can actually auto correct it, so it's not to slow you down, or you can review each one and then make adjustments accordingly within ShipStation. And a couple other things here. You can see we've got the SKU. Some of our integrations support images. You can also go into ShipStation and upload your inventory and upload images for each one of them. When we see that SKU, we'll automatically apply the picture to it. And then you can start animating it. So order by order, you can start coming and selecting. You've got notes from buyer and a couple other unique things. You can start deciding, okay, where do I want to ship this from? I've got my multiple offices here, or my multiple locations that I loaded in. I've got my my service type. So what's neat here is you can actually see all the various services that are available for this particular package. And all it's doing is saying, well, you've got all these carriers ported in. Here's all the services that this potential order could go, right? And there's a lot of different options there. You can also use the rate calculator, where this is just going to aggregate all the various carriers. So here's actually a really good example. This is our UPS account from ShipStation offering up our discounted rates. And here's a standard UPS account. This is just flat standard. So you can see significant savings right off the bat from us. And then UPS, we partner with Stamps to provide USPS accounts, and you can see your USP options as well as FedEx. So you can just double click them, select it on a fly, start configuring the label. You can add special use cases. There's a ton you can do here. If you want to note that there's, if it's alcohol or consignment. I won't get in the weeds, and we can certainly talk later down the road if you want to talk about all the various options in ShipStation. But just know that we've tried to account for all of the various use cases that could pop up when someone's fulfilling an order, international, dry ice, all that sort of thing. But once you've got that, you'll notice I've also got the rate. I'm ready to create and print the label. So with that, print the label here. Now, if I'd had a printer connected, this actually would have went right to a printer. It would have spit right out to a printer. But in this case, I'll just throw it into a browser. So you can see right off the bat, we've got live postage. I was able to map our brand directly onto, or my fake brand here, directly onto the label, as well as print a packing slip. And you can see the packing slip does have some scanning functionality. There's quite a lot of scanning functionality within the app. It's hard for me to demo it in a virtual setting, but I'm more than happy to get into if you want to know the ins and outs of all the scanning. But you can also brand this packing slip. This is just our default packing slip, but it's got the various information you need, cost, invoice, that sort of thing. But a couple of neat things happen here, though. Once postage is printed, it's not just that you're able to put a label on the box and get it out the door. ShipStation is actually, through any one of our integrations, including the one with CSD, is going to go back to wherever that corresponding order came from, and we're going to update the status. So Jeff, I know you mentioned it's shipped in CSD. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so it'll be shipped in CSD, and then and that's a very common status update. So in the case of like Magento or any one of our, it could be complete. It could be, the point is it completes the loop on the actual capturing of that order, and then the printing of the physical manifestation of postage. We'll also notify the customer as well. We'll send off an email. As part of most of our integrations, we are capturing the email as part of when it comes across. So in this case, it's just a fake email. But if you do have us send the email as part of the integration, we will actually notify the customer right off the bat and say, hey, this item has shipped, and you can set preferences on how that customer is notified. So that notification screen I was showing earlier, very, very powerful. One of my pet peeves is I can't stand getting notified about an order shipping when a label is created, right? Because then you have to click the label and you constantly have to go back and check to see if it got updated and maybe it shipped the next day. We actually can allow you to set it, make those notifications conditional so that the customer, the end user, your customer, only gets notified when it first gets scanned in the mail stream. So right when they click it, they're notified. Those emails are highly configurable. I'll show you that template in a minute. Another nice thing, if you have us send the email rather than having the CSD or some other external source notify your customer, we can actually send the end user to what's called a branded tracking page. So a neat feature here where someone can take them to a page that's branded rather than the page rather than the page of the carrier. It takes you directly to a branded tracking page that you own, that you get to manage and update and create templates for. So very, very powerful feature there. The template for the email is also highly configurable. So you can come in and really make those email customizations pop and look really good. I always like to tell a story about how I get emails from top brands out there, both from B2B and B2C. That's just a black and white email with a tracking number, and we really feel like that's an opportunity to really extend the brand. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier in the presentation, where you can really extend your brand through that post-purchase experience. That email is your brand, it's your communication, and it's also a lot of people know this, but it's also the most number one clicked on email in any experience, from customer order to fulfillment. So people come back to that email 9, 6, 100 times, and I can tell you from personal experience, I'm the worst offender of that, especially if it's something I really want, or if I'm trying to get inventory in time for a customer. Really, really, really important to look. I'm always looking at that email. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So especially if there's like a special order or something that you absolutely need to satisfy your customers. So with that, that's sort of core functionality of ShipStation. I know I'm at 1:30 here, but I do want to talk briefly about what I think really starts to distinguish ShipStation from a lot of just plain Jane fulfillment apps. And I think a lot of people are able to sort of put orders somewhere and maybe generate postage or generate stuff. But I think what really separates ShipStation is that third tenet of our mission statement, which is the exceptionally efficient component. And I kind of alluded to this earlier in the presentation, and it's called business logic, dispatch logic. There's a lot of different words for it. But ShipStation has a very powerful automations engine built into it that allows our merchants to scale. So that example I was giving you, where I was going into the order and I was clicking through each item and selecting the rate and selecting those specific use cases, that's great if your order volume is pretty low. I mean, I think you can afford to go order by order when you're only doing a few a day or something like that. But when you get to the point where you're doing thousands of orders a day, that's just too click heavy. I mean, you'd be there all day having to click through all those examples. And I think that's really where automation comes in. So we think about automation in two ways. It's the concept of order criteria or filters, and then actions to be taken on those filters. So think about if-then statements, right? And we give our customers just a myriad of different criteria they can use to segment out orders. It could be something as simple as like order total, geolocation. It could be date, order paid, even some custom fields that can be mapped. Buyer ID, especially if potentially you're doing B2B and you've got a specific buyer who needs all of their Fedex shipments billed to a third party. I see that on the use case a lot. Maybe they do more Fedex shipments than you, and they have really great rates with Fedex. So they may use buyer ID to map it automatically depending on what that order is. The idea here is not to have them all memorized. I think it's important to know that the engine exists. There's a way to segment them out. There's a way to separate one order from another and what distinguishes it. But once those filters are created, you're able to come in and create actions on those filters. You can say, okay, if it is this particular buyer ID, what do I want to do with that? I've told the system that this buyer is a specific thing. I've got a specific buyer ID. this specific user, what do I want to do? And maybe I want to charge the billing to a third party, or maybe I will always want to give, maybe I have a negotiated rate with them where they get free shipping on all orders because they're my best customer. You can tell ShipStation to automatically select or take actions on any individual order upon import. So when it comes into the dashboard, when it comes into the centralized dashboard, all these business logics, all these dispatch logic rules can basically, they ignite, they trigger, and all of that information on the order level detail is pre-selected. The one I see the most common though, and I do want to, because people ask me about this all the time, is I do want to talk about set carrier and service package. So I'm sure anyone who does any level of fulfillment, and probably most people on this webinar, know that certain carriers probably have or do have better rates on different weight classes, for example. So like the Postal Service is really, really strong in things that are under 13 ounces. UPS and FedEx might have comparable rates in certain urban areas, but maybe not necessarily in rural areas. UPS's mandates vary to send packages to anywhere in the United States, so they have a lot more services in rural areas where UPS or FedEx might not. The idea, though, is to sort of understand those rules a little bit more, and then be able to automate the selection of the service package. So let's say everything that's in my geo, I get great rates with FedEx in my city. I automatically want to use FedEx ground, and then my package type, and then just save that rule. And so the idea, I know automation can be a little bit abstract, so I try to conceptualize it for you in a way that makes sense to me. The whole idea is when you're in this screen, when you're in this major order screen, all this information that you see, the warehouse, the type of service, the size, where is it going, special use cases. The idea is to have all that pre-populated for you automatically. You don't have to think about it. You know your rules. They're already set up so that someone can come into our app and do what's called a batch print, where they take thousands of orders all in one click. They take them all and then they go and create labels and they create packing slips all in one click. So people ask me, well, how do people get to 1 million shipments a month or 2 or 3 million shipments a month with ShipStation? They take advantage of automation down to every granular possible thing that they have, and then they use batch printing to get those orders out in a timely manner. And with that, we've got about 5 minutes or so. I'm happy to. I'm going to throw it back on my slide here. Happy to take any questions. I want to make sure we leave enough time. I'm going to leave this slide up, and I believe Gloria, if anyone has any questions, I'm going to check at the queue here. Okay, great.
Yeah,
go
Kevin,
ahead, Jeff.
I got some questions. I'll go through them. So,
okay.
Bob and EJ, the question is, do we offer LTL shipping, and can we create bill of ladings for LTL carriers?
Good question. Short answer, no. So ShipStation is a parcel solution. We're focused solely on parcel. Now we do support select LTL carriers like UPS, FedEx, for example. A lot of people find value in using us for their parcel, especially if, like, let's say you do 90% parcel and 10% LTL. You can still bring those orders into ShipStation, but creating the BOL, you have to do that outside. You can still mark them as ship in our app. But if you're wanting to generate postage directly in our app for a myriad of or a wide variety of LTL carriers, we don't support that, unfortunately. Good question, though. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so David, this question is actually for me. Does the integration support TWL? So David, let's talk offline. It does, but it's not part of the base package. So we could talk about that in more detail. The next one is from Tony. Does AccuShip work with on-premise installations of Infor SX.e? If so, which versions? So the current integration uses the standard shipping APIs that are available, and those have been available since version 11. So the answer is yes, we can support on-premise, and we can even push that code down with an engagement, and we can work with your channel partner or direct code provider. Then the next one is from Martin. Can you ship warehouse transfers and warehouse transfer direct orders, and it'll post all the journals back to SX correctly? That is a phase 2 integration, and it would be an add-on to the base integration, but it is on the roadmap for us to support warehouse transfers and direct orders.
I'm glad you're here, Jeff.
Yeah. The other questions, and for all the people that ask questions, please reach out to me via email for these integration style questions. And then there's one just came in, and then that might be it. Yes, for AJ, the bill amount and shipment amount transfers back to CSD in the integration. So that's all the questions that came in.
Great. Yeah, and I realize that questions may come up after this presentation. Please write down my email. That's my office line. Feel free to call me anytime. Happy to answer any questions. I realize that it's hard to give all the features that ShipStation does in a quick webinar like this. There's a lot more that I didn't even scratch the surface on within the application. So if you're curious, please reach out to me. I'm happy to get you connected with someone on our side who can talk a little bit more in depth about some of the other tools, the scanning functionality. There is some lightweight WMS functionality that I wasn't able to get to. We could talk about ShipStation all day. Obviously, I could too, but we want to be conscious of your time. But if you'd like to get a deeper dive, please reach out to us. We're happy to take care of that for you.
Yeah, that's perfect. And for the integration, and I can connect you with Kevin to get a demo going, please reach out to me via email, and that's actually my cell phone there. So feel free to text that or give me a call.
Outstanding. All right.
Well, thank you, Kevin and Jeff. That was a valuable presentation. And as most all of our webinars are recorded, this presentation will be available on our YouTube station no later than tomorrow. And we'd like to invite those of you who are members of TUG to continue this discussion online in the CloudSuite Distribution Group. And for those of you who are not yet members, please visit our website at www.theusergroup.org and join us. And as they say in Hollywood, that's a wrap. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you to TUG Group. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jeff.